the social ills of our society will be solved and cured by the application of force in strategic locations, both from the top, legislation, holding of the law, informal groupings of citizens united towards a common vision, alliances, social capital, non-profits, neighborhood associations, through legislation and the judicial work, and also, perhaps even more importantly, or at least equal to this top-down approach, will be the necessity to speak to and work on the fundamental problems, the fundamental root causes of these socio-economentalist problems. What are the social evils or ills that we human beings have been belabored by for millennia, 12,000, 30,000 years? Hunger, homelessness or lack of shelter, lack of fulfilling or meaningful or adequately compensating vocation, enormous discrepancies in the distribution of capital, lack of potable water, lack of water at all, environmental devastation, increased desertification due to climate change. People who have jobs, who have good food, who are healthy, who have shelter, they don't kill each other, they don't go to war. Unless, like in the case of the United States, they are seeking to usurp, appropriate, to steal another country's resources, to steal their neighbors' resources, to support a Jurassic idea, support a Jurassic form of energy such as oil, petroleum, when there always have been and there are countless other options for energy. How do we address these fundamental root problems? How do we address hunger and income stratification? How do we feed our people, our citizens, without using up water or chemicals for fertilizers, or without leaving fallow, poisoned ground? How do we generate the electricity to keep people warm in the winter? How do we create the surpluses of food so that the price of food can be kept low because of high supply? How can we create, research, develop, manufacture products and items that are built to last, rather than, as is the common practice today, except for small businesses and social entrepreneurs, to build things that break? Planned obsolescence which really didn't come about until after World War II. It's kind of a pet subject of mine. Planned obsolescence is a virus or a fungus that's little mycorrhizae just reach into all aspects of our current society as of today. The idea that things are made to break, things are made to be disposed of, and because of that mentality, we have also come to see our citizens as disposable. We see health. We see health as a highly specialized allopathic medicine sees health as a highly conveniently boxed in idea of health where nothing is connected to everything else. It's all about symptomology, addressing the symptoms rather than the root holism of health. The food we eat, that we buy from the companies that feed us, is poison. Unless we're informed consumers, that we're eating food that is made to make us break so that we can fuel the medical industrial complex and the prescription companies. We need to apply pressure from the neighborhood association up to the federal government. We need to be active, informed, engaged citizens. We also need to practice ways of agriculture that mimic biological natural systems. Nature has been producing surpluses without destroying herself for aeons. We know permaculture, biodynamic agriculture, biointensive agriculture, and one of my favorite things, and one of the things that I'm experimenting with here at Atlas Works, vertical farming. We know these things work. We know that we can feed the entire population of this world on a fraction of the resources that we use to grow, to produce both vegetable and meat. We can produce enough food to feed this world on a fraction of the resources without leaving the ground and communities laid waste, like the common ubiquitous practice of monoculture does. We can grow this food and also a fraction of the space. You don't need thousands of acres to grow food of one crop. We can grow on a third of an acre, we can grow enough of food, and if we eat eggs and fish, we can grow enough food to feed a 5 individual family on a third of an acre without ever having to go to the grocery store. And the people in that family can still hold jobs, regular 9-to-5 gerbs, and not be frazzled and live holistic lifestyles in equilibrium. We really need to consider the idea of garbage, reconsider the idea of garbage and what is disposable. How I see things is that there really is no such thing as garbage. There's only items that are the sum total of individual materials coming together. So if a person takes the aggregate of those materials and then disassembles them, stockpiles them, and breaks down something, say a refrigerator or a computer or clothing or even plastic bags. Plastic bags are a big problem with recycling plants. For some reason, even in large cities, plastic grocery bags are a huge problem. They can stop an entire recycling line because for some reason no one's spent the time to create a machine that can handle plastic grocery bags. But we know that we can take plastic and turn it into chips and make lumber with it and build homes or build decks. Why are we looking at cutting down in our neighborhood here in Whatcom County? We're still fighting to keep the Blanchard Mountain forest from being cut down probably to make toilet paper, a old growth forest, when in Whatcom County this year there will be thousands of board feet used to make decks that will rot in 2 years because we live in a temperate deciduous rainforest, where if we took those plastic bags that are buried in landfills or incinerated and turned into noxious gases that eat away our atmosphere, if we took those bags, we can turn those bags into lumber to produce deck boards that will last 100 years or more. What is the half-life of plastic? Thousands of years? And then we're going to cut down that forest to make toilet paper, to make board feet, to make these decks that will last a couple of years. And liberate a large amount of carbon into the greater stream of things, and also eliminating a biofilter of greenhouse gases. It's not sustainable. It's not solvent sustainable and surplus creating. There was a fundamental shift in American society following World War II. Our problem is not a lack of resources, it's a lack of resourcefulness. We don't have to change, redo the entire structure of society. We only need to make small changes that have big effects. Recycling is good, it's a good start. We need to upcycle. Permaculture projects at community houses are a good start, but we need to do this on large scale. We need to do permaculture projects that will feed entire communities. We start with the tinder, we start with the small things. We start with a tomato paste can from the dumpster behind an Italian restaurant that becomes a wind turbine, for, in this case, just a sculpture. But I created this thing in a half hour. I could hook this to a little, I could get a VCR and take one of those little motors that drives a VCR. I guess we don't really have VCRs anymore, but even a CD player, I could take one of those little motors, hook it to this, run it in reverse, generate 3, 4, 5, 6 volts of electricity, and LED light, have a strand of LED lights. I could light the studio, which is this silly little can thing. There's so many options. There's countless options. we have to do it ourselves. We have to start with small steps. Start with the tinder, and we will create a roaring fire. And we always ought to look to first principles. What is the root of things? How can things be done even a little bit differently? When we begin to come at these problems that are destroying our society and leading the human race towards extinction from both the higher levels of communication, legislation, judicial action, and also by working in our gardens and by using biodiesel cars and by practicing holistic health, by learning effective communication so that we don't start little wars with our neighbors. Top down and bottom up. That's the way the world gets better. That's the way we get better.